Welcome to the Successful Encore Career Podcast, a podcast production of Employment for Seniors. This episode is brought to you by Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, Nationwide Insurance, and InnoSource. I'm Brett Johnson, longtime volunteer and longtime supporter with Employment for Seniors. And with me is Executive Director Dr. Carol Ventresca. Hey, Carol.
Hey, Brad. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. Thanks so much for helping us today on our program. We are going to do something different. And we often hear from our clients how stressful it is in their job search. And one of the things that we have talked to folks about is, find those spots that can help you get past the stress. And those are a lot of variety of things, one of which is healthy living, healthy eating, and exercise. So we decided to pull this topic together with our Employment for Seniors Trick or Treat 5K, which this year is going to be on October 27th at John Bishop Park here in Whitehall. With us today are two very special guests who help us make this happen. Shannon Sorrell is the director of the Whitehall Parks and Recreation Department, and also joining us today is Cory Ollie, who is the Parks programmer. So thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Carol. We are excited to be here.
We appreciate your time and effort. And so we're going to start out first by Shannon. You came to us from another community outside of Columbus, and we want to hear a little bit about your background and how you came to Whitehall. And we're going to talk a lot about all the wonderful things you're doing. And Cory, also a little bit about your background too.
Thank you, Carol. So early on in my career, I was connected with Big Brothers Big Sisters and a bunch of different camp programs by not only attending camp, but being a camp counselor. And I fell in love with what the difference we could make in people's lives through camping and outdoor recreation experiences. However, I was enrolled in an accounting program here at The Ohio State University, and I was an accountant. And so when I graduated with this awesome accounting degree, no one would hire me in the nonprofit world or in Parks and Rec to run camps. And so I found myself, with this awesome degree and no employment opportunities. And I chose to quit a full-time accounting degree and job and go back into a graduate program where in Parks and Recreation. And thankfully, through all of that, I don't golf, but I ran a golf program. I don't do survival-based camping, but I taught survival classes. I did learned to do all this different stuff and wore many different hats over the years. And when I graduated with my Parks and Rec degree, I came back home and was very fortunate in the timing, in 2007 to be able to secure a job with the City of Gahanna, for which, along the mantra of things I'd never done before, I started running a pool and I started running a golf course. I figured if I could teach survival and golf lessons, obviously I could do a golf course and a pool and run adult sports programs. And I did, and it was a ball. And, when the market crashed very soon thereafter, my accounting degree came into great play because I had to learn how to run public recreation in a more entrepreneurial manner and take something that, we a lot of times take for granted as a service program and say it can sustain itself financially. And so over the next several years, we developed a highly competitive, revenue-wise program in public parks and recreation that operated in the top 1% nationwide.
Wonderful.
In terms of revenue recovery. And that included our senior center. And so we had to do things I was the killer of fun in Gahanna for a while because I had no choice. We had to take the senior center and make it a rental facility. It needed to be able to generate money on the weekends to support the weekday programs. We changed the way that our golf course clubhouse rentals worked so that all of a sudden we were able to generate revenue off of alcohol sales there as well and those sorts of things. We restructured camp so that it was still one of the most affordable ones in the region, and we had great revenue recovery, or we had great coverage, but we also were meeting revenue recovery goals. So that was a pretty unique experience. And then almost 2 years ago now, I came to Whitehall, and I am getting back to my service and mission values, being able to make recreation accessible for all, making sure that our community is connected to our parks and to our programs. And so getting back into this, making sure that we can make a difference in the lives of others and being able to use all the resources that we have at our fingertips to get our community and our seniors and our youth and our families and all of our residents and our employee residents into our parks has been amazing.
Well, this is a wonderful time to be doing this in Whitehall with all of the economic growth. And we actually had a podcast on economic growth of Whitehall earlier, and always doing a shout out to our wonderful home city and how well you all take good care of us. But you actually have done an encore career. Most of us wait till we're in our 50s. You did it much younger.
Yep.
But it's a really important lesson for folks out there to think about thinking outside the box of your skills, talents, and experience, regardless of your age.
Yes.
My background is in sociology, so I have a PhD in sociology, but I was doing continuing ed, and we had to be fiscally solvent. And so I went and took accounting classes. Well, lo and behold, you become a nonprofit director and you better know some accounting, So
Yeah.
I did it the exact opposite of what you did, but it's a really important lesson for job seekers. Think about your talents and skills and use them.
Right.
And build on them and
Right.
grow them. So fabulous.
And you wouldn't traditionally think that accounting or business would work in public parks and recreation,
Oh.
or you don't think about that fit, but it is necessary to being able to speak to the budget or to grants
Right.
or to funding mechanisms and being able to maximize the resources available in a community or for a community.
we have to account for public dollars.
Yes.
They're tax dollars, but also unless you've ever been in public service and to see the streams of funding and the complications of funding, you have no clue,
Right.
what you have to do. So Cory, tell us a little bit about you. Cory is our mad scientist at our 5K every
He
year.
is a mad scientist. He's a rocket engineer. He's all kinds of things over here.
Jack of all
cool.
trades, master of none. So like Shannon, I started off doing camp stuff as well up in southern Michigan. And I started that when I first got to college, and my degree changed probably 4 or 5 times before I ended up deciding what I wanted to do, which was environmental policy and analysis with a specialization in education. It's a mouthful. And so I worked at the Metro Parks of Toledo up there as an outdoor skills programmer. So we would do classes like canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, archery, fire building, you name it. We just did it all up there. And then I got hired in Whitehall in May of last year, I think it was, as a park ranger. And Shannon had sort of just started a few months earlier. And, everyone's trying to figure out, okay, what's next for the parks? And I told Shannon I would love to do some programming aspects. And so we did. We started with a few art programs. We started with nature walks. And then throughout the year, last year, and then into this year, we started doing so much more like archery and fire building. And this past weekend, we did rockets with the fire chief, which was great. Where
Sounds cool.
yeah, he came out and everyone had a little model rocket that they could take home with them, and COSI was there as a big deal. So it's been a lot of fun, and Shannon's, great to work for. She sort of lets my imagination run wild and says, go for it. If you want to do it, I'll try to help you do it.
I have to confess, I'm a closet Girl Scout camp counselor and love doing the outdoors, but soon realized this was probably not my career path. But it did get me into advising, having been a counselor, and I started academic advising when I went to undergraduate school. So you never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. So let's go ahead and
Well, Shannon, you mentioned earlier, and I think you've hit it on the head that you take the Park and Rec Department for granted. Especially those that are so well ingrained in the community, you just expect you're going to have a nice park, you're going to expect to be open, expect to be clean, expect programs and such. So, but I think this can give a shout out to you as what's going on with Whitehall's department. So let's talk about the goals. What's going on? What's on the agenda, as well as being accomplished as well too.
So Whitehall has 5 gorgeous parks in its community and in its repertoire, and we've had those parks for decades at this point. And our goal really has become in this last couple of years to make our parks and recreation available for all in our community and to transform these resources that we have from this, diamond in the rough to the gems that they are.
Right.
And we've done a lot, and not just in all the programs Cory has developed, the partnerships we've built, such with you all, with the Ashford on Broad, with, various community organizations, with Kimba to help fund new programs in creative ways, but also to really invest in our resources. So for a small park and recreation agency such as ourselves, we have done a lot in a short amount of time. We have rebuilt all the playgrounds in our parks. Some of that was with grant funding. We received $94,000 in NatureWorks grant funding last year, and that finished out a trail in Whitehall Community Park. We another project that we've worked on is we've added shelters. So we have 2 new handicap accessible shelters in Whitehall Community Park.
Where are those located?
So those are in Whitehall Community Park on the north end of the city, up off of Hamilton Road, and they're closer to the front park entry. And what's really nice there is we did a paving project there this year that for the first time ever, this is a multi-level park where there's a ravine. It goes into the creekway. And so there's a drastic elevation change in the park. And the only way it was accessible in the past was by steep staircases. There's now parking available, and it is much more accessible. The walking paths at the bottom of the hill are accessible. And we just planted 7 acres of wildflowers. We're getting ready to do our end of season maintenance, but they are gorgeous. So we took underused field turf space and turned it into pollinator habitat in the middle of a dense urban community, which is very cool. We have been really catching up on a lot of deferred maintenance. So one of the projects this year was clearing almost over 8 acres of honeysuckle, which is actually, while it's pretty, it's invasive. It has very low nutritional value in the, nature world. It's kind of like French fries instead of quality food. Thank you, Cory, for that analogy.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And so
What's wrong with French fries?
nothing once in a while, but we all know what happens when we try to live on French fries. And so we have been able to do a large amount of honeysuckle removal. So that park, Whitehall Community Park, has been completely turned around. If you drive through it, you would not recognize it for what it was 8 months ago. The other parks, John Bishop Park, we built a splash pad there and opened that up last year. This past summer was our first full season of operations. And what is so cool is now we are working with the Senior Center, and in Whitehall residents who are a member of the Whitehall Senior Center can bring their non-resident grandchildren for free under the resident or under our new policies. So not only families that live here, but grandparents who, their kids are with them and live here are able to take advantage of that now, which is great. And in both of those 2 parks, we have built fully handicap accessible playgrounds. So I always thought about in the field that kids who are in wheelchairs or kids with accessibility needs or there's sensory features in the playgrounds, it becomes more interactive for kids. I never stopped to think about the grandma who turned around and looked at me at our playground opening and said, "Thank you, because it's the first time in years I've been able to be on the playground with my grandkids with my walker."
There you go.
And it was amazing. Like, she's standing there almost in tears. She's so happy because now she can play on a playground with her grandchildren. And talk about being able to relieve your stress or be able to get out and get active.
Right.
It's to make them accessible for individuals of all ages has been wonderful. And then the other great benefit is a lot of our adults who are using our parks for fitness reasons have found that while we don't have fitness specific equipment in our parks, they're using the new playground equipment for a workout station. And that's been a really cool benefit. Of the new playgrounds. So, and on top of those 2 fully accessible playgrounds in our other 3 parks, we redid those. So, and if that wasn't enough, guys, we have a new YMCA. Hopefully I'm signing off on designs for today, and we will open next year. This coming year, we are adding our 6th park, which is going to be a dog park, which is amazing to have in this community because there isn't one here for our residents to use. And we will begin design work on that and community input sessions. Hopefully as early as November or December, we'll be announcing our first community input session. And in all, we have 7 capital projects our department plans to be working on in the next 18 months. So that's 2 of them. Another is almost a $750,000 restoration of a tributary that runs through our park. So at one point in time, we like to concrete in all our watersheds and our ditches. And, we made these concrete tunnels for all the water in the cities to run through. We now all know that wasn't the best idea. So we are working on removing one of those. And we've received almost $500,000 in grant funding to help with that project, which is awesome.
So where is the tributary? It goes into
the Big Walnut Creek, and it's in Whitehall Community Park. So on the south end of Whitehall Community Park.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Great. So instead of a 15-foot concrete deep ditch, we will have a naturalized creek area, which talk about aesthetics and look and feel and peaceful nature areas.
And the kids can come and find the tadpoles.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Great. Well, you've already talked a little bit about some of those things that you've accomplished. You're coming into a community that has had a lot of difficulty.
Yes.
And Whitehall actually made national news this week, but for a positive thing, a problem, and it's being dealt with. And I think that Parks and Rec is going right along with police and fire and how they're dealing with the opioid crisis here. The mayor and her staff have really worked hard on economic development in Whitehall, and it looks like Parks and Recreation is just coming right up with them and moving things along.
Yes, and to be a part of a leadership team and a council that really, in our Parks Commission, that see the vision of where we can go and are willing to work to move the needle and believe that better things are possible for our residents and our community is amazing. I don't know if it was in the news. I mean, our violent crime rates have dropped by 48% in the last 2 years, and that is a direct impact of the mayor and council and our police chief and safety forces. And on top of that, the efforts of the police, the fire department are amazing. And it's not as visible, but it's very impactful. We have been working and developing strong relationships with our safety forces. So, for example, the fire chief came and taught a Parks and Recreation program this past weekend, building rockets with the fire chief. So when his crews found out that he was doing this, of course they stop in. So the community is interacting with our fire department more. Our police and fire come out to support almost every single event, whether it's a music in the park, it's our basketball tournament, it's our movie in the park, and it's our park parties where, we do these free events for the community. We provide dinner. Well, our safety forces are there in a very approachable manner too. And what's been really cool is to see our crews then turned around and inviting their families out to these events they're working. They're coming to the programs. Our canine officers are in our parks. And a lot of that had to do with the police department received a $50,000 grant this past year to help put foot patrols in our parks and help create these positive relationships in our community. So it's pretty awesome to be working alongside departments that think in that manner.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the programs and involving all of the aspects of Whitehall, Cory, let's talk about just the rocket event you just did this past weekend.
Sure. Yeah.
As well as other events that you may be planning as well too that incorporate all aspects of Whitehall.
Sure. Yeah. So we do all sorts of things in the parks. And so we've just started an art series that will take place at the Ashford, I think, starting in December. And so it'll be an adult-based program. And then we'll do one that is like a family-based program. Mm-hmm. And so that's really, really cool. This coming weekend, we're doing, it's called Parenting Pals. And so it's for their parents to bring their kids. And we're going to read a story. It's the Lorax. It's my favorite children's book. But we're also going to be doing an art activity that relates to the book. Mm-hmm. In the spring and the summer, we do archery, and nature walks, nature programs. We go into the schools and do skins and skulls. So I go around with skins from all sorts of native animals and their skulls. We discuss them. The skulls are just replicas.
Good.
But the kids love them.
They do.
They love them.
I'm over here, grimacing through this conversation. But yeah,
if we see Cory walking around the parks, with a bag and trying to find old skulls,
right.
Okay.
And so we've gone to the YMCA's after school programs to do stuff like that. We invited the YMCA to come down to Whitehall community this summer so all of their kids could do archery with us, which is just an experience that we offer free. And as far as I know, we're one of the only places that will give archery lessons for free by like a certified archery instructor. So I had to go through the same training that like USA Olympic archery coaches have to go through.
Very cool.
Just the first couple of levels of it.
And those are for all ages. Those aren't for kids. So we have adults that come to those classes on a regular basis and love them and want to know when we're doing more of them. So
that's wonderful. So one of the things that, and I'm going to kind of squeeze right in here, one of the things that Shannon told me way back when she first started was this notion of walking through Whitehall, that idea of getting all of these paths to match up. So talk about an opportunity for a job seeker to decompress,
right,
going out and taking a walk in the neighborhood.
So being able to get to your parks is so important, and having walkable communities. And Whitehall as a city recognizes that. And we are working in a lot of ways to be able to connect our parks to our communities, putting trails into established urban communities, can be difficult. But we are working on it. Our hope is that our job seekers, our residents will be able to walk out their front door and take a trail and safely get to our parks. And from there, we'll be connecting to the Central Ohio Greenways and that. But when you do come to our parks and you walk through our parks, Whitehall Community Park now has all these wildflowers. And whether you're there in the spring or the summer, we have woodland and prairie wildflowers. If you come down to John Bishop Park on the weekends, you can come watch ball tournaments almost every single weekend. We have some of the top tournament fields in Central Ohio. They bring in several thousand people on Saturdays and Sundays. So really, there's a lot going on. And so as our job seekers who may be under stress, getting out and being active, the safety in our parks, we have active staff presence, daytime, evening, and, our safety forces check through our parks regularly. So the look and feel of outdoor spaces here in Whitehall is greatly changed in the last few years. And we hope that people come walk through our parks and enjoy what there is there. So
and we even offer those walking programs.
We do through the summer.
So starting I think March, April of next year, we'll probably bring those back where we're leading walks once a week, and every walk is at a different place, and they all relate to a park somehow. So one of them is through Whitehall Community, and that's led by a staff person. One of them's through John Bishop, etc. So, and that's just a great opportunity for people to get out, meet park staff, and just see the parks maybe that they haven't been to in a while.
Which would be a wonderful opportunity, again, for a job seeker to take advantage of a program like that. Now, for those kinds of programs, though, do you need to be a Whitehall resident to participate?
Not at all. And that goes for most of our programs. Archery, Skins and Skulls, all of that are walks. You don't have to be a Whitehall resident. One of our big goals is just connecting people to the outdoors. And that shouldn't be limited to if you live in Whitehall, if you live in Reynoldsburg. We have a lady who lives down in Obetz that comes up for every single one of our archery programs. She just loves doing it so much, and she's 90 years old and she's still doing it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's a great physical activity that most people can do.
Well, one of the things that we're seeing in our office is that it sounds like the economy is booming. Isn't that great? Everybody's got jobs. Employers are begging people to apply. In actuality, it's difficult for an older adult to get a job. Oftentimes, they have been out of the job market for a long period of time, and all of a sudden realizing my Social Security is just not going to make it. Right. I need to do some additional income. So they're having difficulty showing that they can physically be part of a job. Not that they have to lift But immediately employers are going to say, well, this 80-year-old isn't going to be able to even walk, from the parking lot into the building. Now you've got opportunities for somebody in their 90s to show they can do archery. That's not easy. So these are the kinds of things that are really advantageous to older adults who are job seeking, to show that they can participate, that they can become or are active in their community, but also they've set a goal for themselves.
Right.
Just like setting a goal to find a job, they are setting a goal to learn archery or to walk the park and increasing their distance and speed and abilities in doing those different exercises. So it really is something they can do. Are there other kinds of activities that may be happening in the park that could be helpful to a job seeker? If not doing it in your park, they can do it in their own park.
Right. I think getting involved as a volunteer in Parks and Recreation can open a lot of doors.
Sure.
Most municipal or county parks and rec agencies have Friends of the Parks, have park advisory committees or commissions. There are opportunities to contribute. So whether, you are wanting to teach a class, because a lot of places will take volunteer instructors, or you want to serve, at an event. We work with our Lions Club and they grill hot dogs at our events and that sort of thing. Being a part of that a lot of times will open the doors. We just had an event this past summer where I literally approached one of the volunteers and said, I would like you to come work for me next summer because you've been so on your game.
Wonderful.
And we appreciate just watching you take care of everything. And so that was, for someone of a younger demographic, but still it happens. And while we may not have always full-time job openings, the 40 hours a week, and most of the time our 40 hours a week are composed of evenings, weekends, and every holiday. So a lot of people don't want to get back into that or ever be in that. But I think volunteering at programs and events is one of the best ways you can show that you are a good fit for that, especially in Parks and Recreation.
One of our biggest employer partners is the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. And they were actually just here for a hiring event a few weeks ago. And my shout out to those folks. They're wonderful. But that is exactly what's happening is there's this huge influx of young folks for summer programs, but the zoo goes 365 days a year and need people to be there. And they're hiring older adults to do those programs, but they also being a volunteer at the zoo or at a park is an incredible way of showing your ability, increasing your talents and strengths. And even if you don't end up working for that organization, it's going to be a great resume builder to work in another organization.
Well, and it's a real glimpse too, because there is a lot of summer work or even around, a lot of times in Parks and Recreation, the staff that are able to be the jack of all trades and come on seasonally, and I think this is in all agencies, we find a way to keep them on after the fact because we need their help. We still need their help in the off season. So we will have a handful of jobs that transfer into that part-time or full-time year round. It's just not a guarantee ever. But the hard thing in Parks and Rec is we work when other people are having fun.
There you go. That's sort of a sad situation.
It is. But weekends, evenings are expected, and it's hard. I have a young family, but my family comes with me to work. And sometimes if it's a social event, if I'm not actually having to run it, or I'm just there to help support the operation, but that doesn't work for everybody. And that can be a challenge across the board. So,
but I think, a lot of our conversation is also showing that it doesn't really matter what age you are.
No, it doesn't.
That employers are finding are more accepting of older adults in their applicant pool. But the older adult also has to show, here is the value that I bring to you. Here's the strength I bring to you, physically or mental strength, the abilities, the skills, the talents, and the commitment.
Yeah. Yes.
And so there are lots of opportunities there.
There sure are.
Well, we are coming up on our Trick or Treat 5K run walk, and our partnership with you, the City of Whitehall, the safety services, it's been fantastic from day one from years ago. But let's talk about that. It is coming up on October 27th, John Bishop Park. Actually, what's funny is, as you came in before recording the podcast, we're talking about 2 or 3 other 5Ks that may actually happen in the city of Whitehall as well. You're becoming a kind of a destination point for 5Ks and walks, amazingly enough. Yeah.
One of the goals with our rebuild and our expansion within Whitehall Community Park over the years is to actually be able to have a loop that we can do certified 5Ks off street. So right now it's very limiting because we're a dense urban community. If you have a 5K like you guys do, we have to shut down streets. So maybe as we develop, we'll be able to go into, being a more accommodating venue for 5Ks, but there is a popularity with them and people do like them, and it's good visibility like you guys are seeing.
Yeah. But that being said, the course laid out through John Bishop Park, or at least starting there, is great. Yeah. It's a great course. Level streets, I think, for the most part, no pothole. I mean, you know, as streets go,
our streets are very well maintained.
They are, in regards to you're not going to feel like you're going to trip or fall whether you walk or run.
Well, and there are only, I think, 4 turns, which is phenomenal.
Right.
And it goes through the neighborhood that backs up to the Columbus Country Club. Mm-hmm. So it's a great area to be going through. And we have fun. We have fun. And talking about little kids, so Shannon, you're bringing your little ones this year.
I am.
We have the Little Monster Dash.
And they are excited about
it.
And
lots of activities, and we're going to have candy and goodie bags and all kinds of stuff. We actually had a runner come in. We had 2 runners come in from out of state last year, both of which looked at the venue of other runs in Central Ohio and decided ours was not only the least expensive, but the most fun, so that they could bring their families. One was here for a meeting and the other one was here for a conference. And they just stayed, had their family with them and enjoyed the day and weren't worried about their kids while they were running the 5K. So it worked out really well. And we did have a good time. Right. But it's also, it's our give back to the community, but the community has given us incredible services to make this happen. So we appreciate everything.
Yeah. And a lot of aspects to what we put on with the 5K run and walk, that it's just a way Whitehall community can come out and enjoy. We've been lucky. It's been always a nice morning.
Knock on wood. Yeah. Yes.
Cold typically, but it's been really nice. Yes. But also meet neighbors as well as, again, networking.
Right.
Bringing it back to Employment for Seniors, talking about your situation, talking to people you may haven't seen in a while to help each other out.
Well, and it's free to volunteer. And so any of the Employment for Seniors clients out there who may not want to run, we're always looking for volunteers. We can use folks to help with the Little Monster Dash and again, network with the employers who will be there, who are sending teams in. So it'll be a great, any other words of wisdom about the 5K that you may have, and other than telling folks to come and join us?
Right. Come out, have a good time. The Little Monster Dash in the morning is free, right, Carol?
Yes,
so your kids can come or your grandkids can come and be a part of this event. And it is a blast. Cory here will be one of our mad scientists, and we may have puking pumpkins this year. And it's a lot of fun, and the band is there, and you guys just do such a fabulous job. And then feel free to stick around Whitehall. Make it a morning in Whitehall, because after the run, the Ashford on Broad is having a family event with bounce houses and lunch. And then at 1 o'clock at Etna Road Elementary, there is a Halloween walk there as well. So you can literally come in costume that morning, have a awesome time with your kids in a free Monster Dash. Participate in the adult one for a nominal fee.
There's also a health fair at the high school that day. So Whitehall will be buzzing.
It will be. And so it's a great morning to come and see and explore our community.
Wonderful. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we appreciate everything that Whitehall has done for Employment for Seniors and for those job seekers out there. Don't forget, it's important to take care of yourself throughout your job search. Think about your local park, or if you don't have a local park, come and visit us in Whitehall. Thank you.
Thank you.